All right, everybody, buckle up because we've got some big news coming out of the AI world, the kind of news that's going to make some waves. We're talking about President Biden, AI, and believe it or not, green cards.
Yeah, this is big.
We're diving deep today, and our source is a really recent article just came out October 7th over at greencardforselfpetition.com. They're saying Biden just made it way easier for AI professionals to get a green card. And for anyone who's not up on their immigration lingo, that's basically a golden ticket to living and working in the U.S. permanently. No more visa headaches, no more uncertainty.
It's a big deal if you're in AI right now because, let's face it, the demand is through the roof. Companies are practically begging for anyone with AI skills, and this move just sent a signal loud and clear that the U.S. wants to be the global hub for AI talent.
And it makes you wonder, right, like, why is this happening now? What's the strategy behind this sudden push for AI brains?
I think it's pretty simple. The U.S. sees AI as the future, plain and simple. And they know that to stay ahead of the game, they need to attract the best and brightest minds from all over the world. Think about it. More AI talent means more innovation, more breakthroughs in everything from, well, who even knows what the future holds?
Okay, so let's break this down a little bit for those of us who don't speak fluent immigration law. What exactly does getting a green card mean, and why is it such a big deal?
So green card is basically your ticket to permanent residency in the U.S. It means you can live and work here indefinitely without having to worry about visas or work permits.
So for someone in AI where the job market is already like insanely competitive, this is huge, right?
Absolutely. It gives you stability, the freedom to focus on your work, and a pathway to citizenship if that's something you're interested in. No more jumping through hoops every couple of years to renew the visa. You're in.
And we're not just talking about any old work visa here. This is about the EB1A, right? The one that's reserved for people with, as they call it, extraordinary abilities.
Exactly. This isn't for just any skilled worker. It's for the top of the top, the rock stars, the innovators. And what's interesting here is that this executive order specifically targets AI professionals, which tells me the U.S. government sees this as a national priority.
So they're not messing around. This is like sending a bat signal out into the world. But instead of Batman, they're looking for like the AI Justice League or something.
And the thing is, this isn't just about attracting people who are already famous in the AI world. This new program, this global AI talent attraction program, it's looking at potential too.
Okay, so you're saying even if you're just starting out in AI, even if you're still in school, this could apply to you.
Absolutely. If you can demonstrate that you've got what it takes to be a leader in AI, that you're on track to do big things, the U.S. wants you. They're investing in the future of AI, and that means investing in people who might not be household names yet, but have the potential to be.
So how does this whole extraordinary ability thing work in practice? Like, what are they looking for? What makes someone stand out in the world of AI?
Well, they gave some pretty specific examples in the article. Publishing research in top AI journals, that's a big one. Speaking at major conferences like NeurAPS or ICML, those are already super competitive, so if you can get your work featured there, you're clearly doing something right.
So basically, if you're the kind of person who spends their weekends coding instead of like going to brunch, the US government might just hand you a green card. Who knew? But seriously, this raises some interesting questions about what it takes to succeed in AI and what the US is prioritizing as this technology continues to evolve at warp speed. And it's not just about like having a killer GitHub profile, right? This executive order specifically mentions a bunch of different visa types like H-1Bs, F-1s, J-1s, O-1s. It's like a whole alphabet soup of immigration acronyms. Can you give us a quick rundown of what those are just so we're all on the same page?
Yeah, so think of these visas like different lanes for people coming to work in the U.S. H-1Bs, those are probably the most common ones you hear about. Those are usually for skilled workers who are being sponsored by a specific company.
So like if Google wants to hire a software engineer from India, they'd use an H-1B visa, right?
Exactly. And then you have F1s, which are for students, the folks who are here studying, doing research, pushing the boundaries of knowledge.
Those are the folks who keep the academic world spinning. Okay, what about J-1s? What are those all about?
J1s are kind of similar to F1s, but they're often for like exchange programs or shorter research stints.
So more like a visiting scholar kind of thing. Okay, and last but not least, we've got the O-1 visas. Those are the ones that always sounded kind of mysterious to me.
The O1 is for people who are already doing extraordinary things in their field. It's kind of like a stepping stone to that EB1A we were talking about earlier. You have to prove that you're at the top of your game, that you've got national or international recognition for your work.
So it's like you're already a rock star in your field, and the O1 is your backstage pass to the US.
Exactly. And what's really cool about this executive order is that it basically says, hey, if you're here on an F1, you don't have to wait until your visa's about to expire to start thinking about a green card. You can start that process while you're still studying, especially if you're in a field like AI.
That is huge GE because I've heard from so many international students who are like killing it in their fields, but then they have to go back home because of visa issues. It's such a brain drain for the US.
I know, right? And it creates so much uncertainty for those students. They're here, they're contributing, they're building a life, but they don't know if they'll be able to stay.
This executive order seems to be saying, we see you, we value your contributions, and we want you to stay. And to me, that signals a real shift in how the US views talent and immigration.
Absolutely. It's like they're saying, we're not just looking for workers, we're looking for people who are going to shape the future.
And they're putting their money where their mouth is by making it easier for those people to stay here and contribute long term. Now, speaking of shaping the future, let's dive into the nitty-gritty of what it actually takes to qualify for this extraordinary ability thing.
Yeah, because the article doesn't just leave us hanging with vague promises. It gets really specific about what the government is looking for in an AI expert.
Like, what kind of things are we talking about here? Give us the inside scoop.
Well, for starters, they're looking for people who are publishing research in the top AI journals. We're talking about the publications that everyone in the field reads, the ones that set the agenda for AI research.
So it's not just about, like, having a blog or writing articles online. We're talking about serious academic publications.
Exactly. And it's not just about publishing either. They're also looking for people who are presenting their work at major AI conferences like NeurIPS or ICML.
Oh, yeah, those are the big leagues. Like, if you get invited to speak at one of those conferences, you know you've made it.
For sure. And that's exactly the kind of recognition that the U.S. government is looking for. They want people who are not just doing good work, but who are recognized as leaders in their field, people who are shaping the conversation around AI.
So it's not just about being smart, it's about having an impact.
Exactly. It's about making a real contribution to the field, whether that's through your research, your speaking engagements, or even just the code that you're writing.
It's like they're saying, show us what you've done, not just what you say you can do.
And that's a really interesting shift, I think, because for a long time, immigration policy has been very focused on credentials and qualifications. But this executive order seems to be saying, we care about what you can do, not just what pieces of paper you have.
And that makes a lot of sense, especially in a field like AI, which is all about innovation and pushing the boundaries.
Hmm.
You know, sometimes the people who are making the biggest impact aren't the ones with the fanciest degrees. They're the ones who are out there building things, experimenting, and yes, breaking things along the way.
Yeah. And sharing those experiences and insights with the world. The article also talks about getting your work featured in mainstream media or AI-focused publications.
So it's not just about impressing other AI experts. It's about being able to communicate your work to a wider audience. Because let's face it, AI is going to impact all of us, not just the people who are building it.
And that's a really important point, because if we want AI to be a force for good in the world, we need people who can bridge the gap between the technical world and the rest of us.
People who can explain complex concepts in a way that makes sense to people who don't speak Python or whatever. Because otherwise, we're all just going to be left in the dark wondering what the heck is going on with all this AI stuff.
Exactly. And that brings us to another interesting point from the article, because it's not just about what you've achieved, it's also about how you're connected to the broader AI community. They specifically mention joining prestigious AI groups, like the IEE or ACM.
Okay, so for those of us who aren't, like, AI insiders, what are those groups all about?
These are professional organizations for people who work in computer science and engineering, and they have a huge influence on the field. They set standards, they host conferences, they publish journals. They're basically the gatekeepers of what's considered good practice in AI.
So joining one of these groups is kind of like getting a stamp of approval from the AI establishment.
Exactly. And it shows that you're serious about your craft, that you're committed to staying up to date on the latest developments, and that you're plugged into the community.
Sure.
Because AI is not a solo sport, right? It's a collaborative field where people are constantly learning from each other, sharing ideas, and building on each other's work.
So you're saying that even if you're not like the world's leading AI expert, just being part of these organizations, showing that you're engaged and contributing to the conversation, that can actually help your case when it comes to getting a green card.
Exactly. And it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. The U.S. government doesn't just want to attract individual geniuses. They want to create a thriving AI ecosystem here. And that means bringing in people who are going to connect with each other, collaborate, and push the field forward.
So it's not just about what you can do on your own. It's about how you fit into the bigger picture. How you can contribute to making the U.S. the global center for AI innovation.
And this executive order seems to be a major step in that direction.
And it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out in the coming years. Because we're really talking about a fundamental shift in how the U.S. approaches immigration, especially when it comes to high-skilled workers.
It's a fascinating time to be watching this space, that's for sure.
Absolutely. But now I'm kind of curious about those actionable steps the article mentioned, because I'm guessing not everyone listening to this is planning to apply for a green card anytime soon.
Right. But these steps are still incredibly valuable. Even if you're not planning to pack your bags and move to the U.S., they offer a really interesting roadmap for building influence and recognition in any field.
So spill the beans. What are these magical, actionable steps that can boost anyone's career, even if they're not aiming for a green card?
Well, one of the things they emphasize is the importance of building a strong online presence.
Okay, so in the age of social media, that's probably a no-brainer for most people. But how does that play out specifically in the AI world?
Well, it's not just about having a LinkedIn profile, although that's obviously important too. It's about creating content, sharing your knowledge, engaging with other people in the field.
So like writing blog posts, maybe doing some YouTube tutorials, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And also participating in online forums and discussion groups, contributing to open source projects, basically anything that gets your name and your work out there.
So it's about building your reputation, establishing yourself as someone who knows their stuff. Because in the AI world especially, it seems like a lot of it is about who you know and who knows you.
It's all about building that credibility, demonstrating that you're not just a consumer of AI knowledge, but a creator, a contributor. And the article also mentions something really interesting, which is the importance of getting involved in AI policy and advocacy.
Okay, so that sounds a little less like coding and a little more like, I don't know, lobbying Congress or something. How does that fit into the whole extraordinary ability thing?
It's about showing that you're not just interested in AI for the technical challenges, but that you understand its broader impact on society. Because AI is going to touch every aspect of our lives, from healthcare to education to transportation, you name it.
So if you can demonstrate that you're thinking about those bigger picture issues, that you're engaged in the ethical and policy debates surrounding AI, that makes you a more valuable asset, even if you're not writing the algorithms yourself.
Exactly. It shows that you're not just a techie, you're a thought leader, someone who understands the complex interplay between technology and society. And that's something that the U.S. government is clearly looking for, especially as they're trying to position the U.S. as a leader in responsible AI development.
So it's not just about being smart, it's about being wise. It's about understanding the power of this technology and using it for good.
And being able to articulate that vision, to inspire others, and to shape the conversation around AI in a positive direction. And that, to me, is what true extraordinary ability is all about.
And on that inspiring note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive. But before we go, I just want to say that I'm really struck by how this executive order is about so much more than just immigration. It's a statement about the future of AI, the importance of global talent, and the role that the U.S. wants to play in shaping that future.
I completely agree. It's a signal that the U.S. is serious about attracting the best and brightest minds in AI. And it's going to be fascinating to see how this all plays out in the coming years.
It definitely gives us a lot to think about. And for our listeners who want to learn more about this executive order and what it could mean for them, be sure to check out the full article over at greencardforselfpetition.com. Who knows, maybe this will be your inspiration to launch your own AI career or take your skills to the next level. That's it for today's deep dive, folks. Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.
Thank you for listening to a podcast by greencardselfpetition.com. Visit greencardselfpetition.com for do-it-yourself packets. We aim to provide the collective experience of numerous applicants who have successfully self-petitioned for their green cards without employer sponsorship, in either the EB1A, Extraordinary Ability, or EB2A National Interest Waiver categories. Our DIY packets are designed to assist you in your self-petition journey.